So what are we going to be doing today, David? Building the computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a AMD build. We're going to be using an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X, which is a 12-core, 24-thread processor. We're going to be pairing that with the Aorus X570 Elite motherboard. And we'll be putting in 32 gig of G-Skill Ripjaw memory at 3600 megahertz. We're going to be also putting in a Samsung 970 EVO NVMe M2 drive with a standard hard drive, 4 terabyte Western Digital Blue drive. We're going to be pairing that also with a GeForce GTX 1660 Super for the video. Also, we got an EVGA 750 watt gold power supply. All right, well, let's get started. Put the case down on the floor. We don't need that right now. Let's move it out of the way. We don't need the graphics card right now. We'll put that over to the side. What we need first is we need the processor and motherboard and memory, and then we'll do the NVMe drive after that. So we need the processor, motherboard, and memory. Yeah, let's switch over to the other view. All right. Get all the little bits out. SATA cables. We got an adapter for the front panel connectors. Might not need that. We've got our screw for our NVMe drive, our manual, our standoff for our M.2 drive, software installation guide, and a case sticker. If we put it on there, from what I've heard, it gives us an extra 20 FPS when playing games. This out the way. Take the motherboard out of the packaging. And the best place to build all this is right on top of the motherboard box. That. We're going to need that a little bit. That. Alright, let's open up our processor and install our processor. Our processor. You'd think this big box had something in it more than just that. It has the cooler in it. Since this is just going to be an actual workstation, not a gaming system, we don't need pretty much any more cooling than what the stock cooler provides, and AMD usually does come with good coolers. Now on this cooler, it's going to come with thermal paste already applied to the bottom, and that's going to be sufficient for our build. So there are these cables for connecting it to the motherboard and for the RGB that's on it. So we're going to leave that cover on the bottom so we don't mess up the thermal paste that's already been applied. But there's our cooler. Alright, get these boxes out of the way. For our CPU, you'll notice probably won't be able to see it on the camera, but you see that little triangle in the bottom corner? Come over here. So that little triangle over in the corner, there's a little triangle right here on the corner of the socket where it lines up with. So that's gives you the orientation on how you put the processor in. So the processor is going to go in this direction here. So you want to lift this little bar up, pull it over a little bit, pull it up. Then we're going to grab the processor by the sides. And we have to be careful because underneath the processor are all these little pins. And if you bend one or break one off, you're going to have to probably go buy another processor. So we just place it in, and it actually just falls right into place. And it's in. We just push this down and clamp it in. Our CPU is installed. Alright, now we're done. Let's install the operating system. No. Not quite. At the top, there's the top. Alright. Next thing we're going to install is our memory, and then we'll put our cooler on after that. Sometimes it's hard to get to the memory slots with the cooler on, taking up all the space. It can be hard to get it in there. Alright, I'll put one in and you can put one in.
Alright.
Okay? Sometimes it's hard to get them out of these packages. But we've got 2 sticks of 16 gig each DDR4 memory at 3600 speed. AMD processors benefit from having higher speed memory. So the memory is keyed, so it only will fit in one direction, which is this notch right here in the memory, and there's a notch right there in the memory slot. So on this motherboard, they want you to use channel 2 first, which is this slot and this slot. If you're only doing 2, that's the most optimal way to put it in. So you want to align it with, make sure it lines with the notch, slide it into each slot there, and then you just push on both sides and it'll click, and these tabs will actually push up. Got it? Here, come here and do this one. Right, both sides, each side, push firmly. Push straight down, push, push. Come on, use them muscles. There we go. All right, memory's installed. Geez, at this rate, this will only be a 5-minute video. All right, so let's put the cooler on. All right, so let's see. So this is going to click onto these little tabs there. But we have to be cognizant of this cable, because this cable is going to plug in here. So we want to make sure, because if we install it, let's say this way, then we'd have to go this way with the cable. But we're going to put it in this way. So we're going to clip this side on. And set it on top of the processor. Oh, let me get this. There we go. That one. Oh, if I can get it to catch on, sometimes these want to be funny about clicking into place. There we go. Alright, now CPU cooler is on. So let's plug our fan in. Alright, next we'll do the NVMe. So let me get the screwdriver. So we're going to take this screw off of the motherboard for the NVMe drive. And set this off to the side. We'll plug in our CPU header stuff here in a little bit when we do more of the cabling. So we're going to need our standoff and our screw. Let me get our NVMe drive. It's right over here. So we got a 500 gig NVMe drive. That's gonna sit in that spot. Screw that standoff into place. Let me get a flat head just to tighten that down just a little bit so to make sure it's snug. Doesn't need to be overly tight. Let me open the package for our screw. Then we'll put our drive in. Goes in at about a 30-degree angle, and then it will flatten out once we put the screw in. Alright, that's installed. Then we take our cover, peel the off. This is our heat sink, so keep it cool, and we'll screw that into place. All right, now our NVMe drive, our hard drive, main hard drive, is installed. So what's next? Well, we can peel this plastic off. Finish peeling that off. I'll clear up some of this trash. Alright, let's put this box off to the side. I think we need it. Throw this away. Is there any more on there? Yep, there's some on that side. Grab that, get that off. We don't need this. It takes more time. Takes more time getting rid of all the packaging and all that stuff than it does actually doing this stuff. All right. So we've got our CPU in, our cooler in, our motherboard or our memory in, and our hard drive in. What's the next step? What do we need to do next? You don't know?
No.
Well, now that we have this part together, here, we'll put in these. The next thing we need to do is maybe put it in the case. We can do that. We'll put it in the case. All right, so this plugs into the side of the cooler. So this one plugs in. These little covers there. And that one there. So this tiny one right here goes in this spot. And that's going to go to a USB header, and I believe we have 2 USB headers, so we can use either one. But I may wait to plug that in when we start plugging in the front panel stuff. And this one plugs in here just so I can do my cable management with some of the other cables as well. So, and that's going to hook into an LED header. So we may route this. I'm not sure how we're going to route it. We may route it around because we're going to have the GPU is going to be sitting here. So we may route this stuff underneath like this. Go this way. So I may wait till we get everything in before doing all that. So we're going to be needing the case here in a second. I didn't see that comment. Can we show that? Is it showing up here, or which was that on? Which one was that on? Was that on YouTube or? That was on Facebook. Why am I not seeing Facebook comments? Okay. Yeah, for some reason I'm not seeing Facebook comments on the PC in here. That's weird. All right, so let's go ahead and get the case out. I'm gonna move this over here while we get the case out. Hey David, if you want, we can just pull up. We'll pull up Facebook over here, since we can't see the comments on here, which I don't know why. So put that there. Oh. All right. Yeah, let me pull that up real quick. Sweet. Never. Me. All right. So now you can check here.
Yep.
And Facebook we can do there.
Okay.
Okay. Here, let's open this case up. I'm gonna open it up upside down so we can easily slide it out. Might want to use that. You got it? Okay. All right. So this is the NZXT 510 case. It's a pretty popular case. It's economical and easy, pretty easy to build in. Pretty much going to be just sitting under my desk at work, so I really don't care what it looks like. So this one's the black with the red interior, just because that's the only one they had in stock. So let's take the side panel off and put it somewhere safe for the time being. We'll put it back in the box. And hopefully the cat doesn't find it and decide that he wants to explore the box. Alright, so now we need to take the back panel off as well. And the reason is a lot of places we need to get to the accessory box of stuff that they put in. You know, all our motherboard screws and all that stuff. They usually will hide somewhere, usually in a drive bay. Yep, there it is. There's all of our case accessories. We'll need to leave this panel off too. We'll need to get to the back. So this box has our power supply screws, our motherboard screws, standoffs, and everything we'll need to mount things in the case. and the handy dandy manual. So they give you some zip ties, you get a bunch of screws. Probably won't be using all of them. We only have one hard drive to install, so that's going to be, won't be too bad. The hard part is figuring out which screws go to what. So there's 4 screws. That's probably for the power supply. Here, let's switch back over. So there's 6. That's probably for the power supply. Usually it's 8 or 9. That's our header adapter if we need it. Here's some tweezers, as the Verge would say. Here are a lot of screws there, and those are flat, and these are M3s. These are 632s. These are for case fans, which this actually does come with one case fan in the back for exhaust. Alright, and it looks like we have hard drive slots, 2 hard drive slots in the back for SSDs. Here and here. And then we have a 5.5-inch drive cage down here in the bottom in the basement. And then there's our front panel connectors. So let's take those out. So we have our front panel audio that'll hook to the motherboard.
Okay.
We have our interesting. It's our front panel connector. So it's actually a connector now. So you can use this if you need to separate them into there, or if your motherboard connectors are already set up like that, then you can just use that instead of having to plug in the adapter. USB 3.0. This is USB 3.1, or this is for USB-C, and this is for the front panel USB connector that's on the front. And then this looks like a fan. So there's actually 2 fans, one here and here. So these will go to the system fan plate spots on the motherboard. There is an extra standoff remover and an extra standoff. If you're putting in a different type motherboard, you might need to move your standoffs. So let's get the motherboard in. So let's move this stuff out of the way. So let's see which screws go for the motherboard. These are pretty sure these are for the power supply. Is it the, I think it's, I'm pretty sure it's the 632s and not the M3s, if I remember right. We don't need those standoffs. Let's get these out of the way. We don't really need those yet. I will take a quick look at the manual here in a second to find out which screws are for the motherboard. I'm pretty sure it's that, but never hurts to double check. So here's the NZXT, and motherboard screws should be listed fairly. Let's see, in the front. there's usually a chart. There we go. There's the chart accessory box. So the standoff, and 21, so it's the B, which is the 632s or motherboard and hard drive. Yep, that's what I thought. Here. All right, so we're gonna put that in place, and then we'll screw the motherboard into place. Here's the motherboard. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect these until we start wiring things up. You want to get that that brake tie from the cat that you fell on the floor from. See, we don't have to put an I/O shield on because it's already made into the motherboard, and we want to put it in place. All right, that was easy peasy. All right, now let's get some of the 632 screws. Here, grab that red screwdriver over there. I'll let you put in some of the screws here. All right, so come here and look. So we got screws 1, 2, 3, 4. That one doesn't get one. 5, 6, 7, and 8 up here in the corner. I'll put the one up in. I'll put the ones that are up here in the corner. I'll put those in, and then you can do the rest of them. Which is why you should have a good magnetic tip screwdriver, which this is, but the screw still fell off. So now we gotta see if we can find that screw, because I don't think it fell on the table. Nope, it's on the motherboard somewhere, but we don't want to tip the case up because we don't want the motherboard to fall out, but we will take the motherboard back out to find that screw. Ready? I hear it. Alright, well, there it is. It wedged itself up in there good, so it fell in a good spot to be stuck. So let's put it back in. You really shouldn't grab or do the motherboard by the cooler, but let's check the alignment again here. Yep, front panel lines up well with the edge of the case. Let me see. See, it is magnetic. I don't know why it fell off. Let me see if I can find a screwdriver that's more powerful. This is an old screwdriver. The magnet on it may be weak. So let's see if we can find a bigger, another screwdriver. That's not magnetic. Actually, that's not magnetic either. But I actually have some magnets that I can stick onto the side of the screwdriver if I can find them. Let me try to find another magnetic screwdriver. So it's going to be difficult to put those in. We don't have. Let's see if this one's better magnetic. Nope, that one's not magnetic at all either. Where did all my magnetic screwdrivers go? Oh well, we'll just have to go with this one then, and hope we don't plop one in down on the motherboard again. We don't want to make them too tight so we can adjust the motherboard if needed. Give it a little bit of wiggle room if some of the standoffs don't quite line up like they're supposed to. See, that hole is not quite lining up right. So let's see. Yeah, that hole is a little too far to the side, so that needs to, let me make sure these are loose enough. This one's gotta go. It's gotta. There we go. Just needed to be adjusted a little over a little bit. Look like they line up right, so you're going to put in that screw, that screw, that screw, and that screw. Okay?
Okay.
While I get some coffee. Okay.
So that screw, and that screw, and that screw.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four
Okay.
screws. All right, and here are your 4 screws. There they are. There's your screwdriver.
Okay.
Good luck. And I would hold it on there with my finger just to make sure it doesn't fall off, because the magnet's not as strong on that screwdriver anymore. You know what? While you're doing that, let me see if I can find my my 7mm magnets that I have. Because you can actually just take those and stick them on the screwdriver and actually make it more magnetic. If I can find them. Oh, where did they go? Watch out, cat. the nut. Metal. I have no idea where those magnets went. I'll find them when I don't need them. How's it going?
I have one more screw.
I think I found them. Got them all in? Got one more left?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I found it.
This one's a tricky one.
By the time I get it there, we got the extra magnets. We don't need them. That one being a problem?
Yeah, it's right in the corner.
If you need any help with it, let me know.
Alright, I think I might need some help. This last one.
Oh yeah, I'll get you started for you then.
Alright.
Let me put this away. Which one?
This one.
That one there?
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, you got them all in?
Yeah.
All right, let me check all the, make sure they're all tight. Then we'll move on to putting in the power supply. Or we could probably hook up the front panel connectors and stuff. Oh, that one needs to be tightened. And then put in the power supply. All right, let's do the front panel connectors next. Then the power supply we'll put in. So let me move some of this stuff over here. All right, so the front panel connector, here's 24 pin USB headers are down here. The USB 3.1 is here, so depending on, so everything is at the bottom, so we'll route everything through these slots here, except for the C, which will route from under here. And then we'll go ahead and run these two. So let me put these through. Let's route these front panel connectors. And these we'll route these in a second. So this is the front panel connector. one's gonna go, we'll route that one here. This is the audio connector. The audio connector is usually in the back, so we'll route that through this hole if they want to stay. You want to come over to this side and grab these and hold them so they don't fall back through, because their new cables are kind of stiff. So this is the USB. We're going to route that one through there too. And then this is this USB-C. So we'll route this one. This one goes here. And the way they have this already routed, I don't see much reason to untie them. We'll put a zip tie on there instead of the bread ties that they have on there, but we can do that after we've connected everything up. All right, let's lay this back down. And we'll switch views back. There we go. So this one's going to connect here. And I like to get a little, so we put a little bend in the cable there to make it look like it's coming straight. We'll worry about that in a little bit. So then this is the USB that goes here. Well, actually, it's here. Okay, and it only fits in one way because there's a notch here on the cable.
Mm-hmm.
There's a notch here on the connector, so
Yeah.
it only goes in one direction. This is our front panel connector, which actually goes here to our front panel connector. So we may need to get the, we'll double check with the motherboard manual and the case manual to find out where everything's at on this, and where everything needs to go on the motherboard. It is actually somewhat labeled. It's hard to see, so I'd rather just look at the book. So here's our front audio. That's keyed as well, so that only plugs in one direction. Let me get a light to see that better. Where there's a pin missing, and as you can see here on the connector, there's a solid block where there's no opening here. So that will go in this way, I believe. Oh, it's missing at the bottom there, so we'll turn around. There we go, that one's in. So we just need the front panel connector, and then we'll start wiring up. We could do our case fans as well, then do the power supply. All right. So our front panel connector is there. Let's grab the stuff that came with the motherboard, because it should have a. Because sometimes a lot of motherboard is just straight old pins that you plug everything into. This one actually is a connector, and I did take everything out of the motherboard box. So let me put that over here. That's for that. Let's see. Here it is. Here. See? So they give you a connector, and then you connect all that stuff up there. All right, let me open this package up. little gigabyte G connector is what they call it. Oh. So on the connector, they have where your power LED, your reset button, and your hard drive stuff all goes, which is great. So, and this actually corresponds to these here. So let's take this out. And we'll plug these in. Power lead. Goes there. And then the power lead negative goes beside it. Sometimes it can be fun just trying to get these in. Slide on down there. There we go. Now the power switch. Now on these, the positive has the arrow, so they need to go in that direction. Even though the power switch doesn't really have a positive and negative because it's just bridging the connection closed. Then this one is the hard drive LED, which is here on the other side. So the positive is there, so that goes in this way. If I can get it in there. There we go. Just take some wiggling. So that's it. So then we can plug that in. It goes in this way. Like so. And you know what? I'm going to pull this one back through and then plug it in on the other side. And then we'll stick this through and plug it in. There we go. Front panel connector is connected. All right, now for fans, we need to locate the fan headers on the motherboard. So we need 2 of them, and they usually shouldn't have a problem finding 2. Thank you. All right, so that's LED, that's CPU fan optional. We've got system fan 2 there, so we'll probably use that one. And there's usually another system fan on here somewhere. It might be at the top near the EPS connector. Let's look, but I can't read it from this from all the way over here. Yep, there's the system fan up here by the EPS power. Alright, so we got a top fan and a back fan. So we will plug in, doesn't really matter which one goes where. Sometimes, depending on how long the cables are, depends on where's the best place to plug them in at. So the top fan, but both have fairly long cables, so it's not really going to be a big deal. Where they go. Through. So we'll hook this one to this, to that one. We'll do some cable management here in a little while. This one, you know what, I'm going to probably just run it in this channel here to take up some slack, because we're going to have a lot of extra on this one. This one we can route this way and down this channel here. This one we can do the same thing and actually route down and in, because this is going to go right by the EPS power. Stick the connector through far enough. Oh, there we go. I got it. Stick that down there. We'll do some better cable management later, but this one we'll plug in. Working in this corner is hard to do. Double check, make sure I got it plugged in right. It's a 3-pin into a 4-pin header, so that's fine. It just means these are not PWM fans. Oop. Hold on, I need a, that's not the right spot, I missed a pin. Nope, let's come over. Still not lined up right. There we go. All right. That's done. All right. Also, we have the connectors that went on the cooler, other than just the fan. Let's oh, it goes over here. Here, I'm gonna use my headlamp. That flashlight is not working very well. There we go. Some extra light. So this one is going to plug into a USB connector down here. So it goes there. We will route this. We'll route that. We'll cable manage that later. We'll just route this one back up here for now. Plug it in right down here. That's all right. Y'all need to get something to eat. Get something to eat.
Someone is at the front door.
There's the USB connector. Y'all getting a snack? Yeah. I may get a snack too. Yeah, it is almost lunchtime. So this one is RGB. So where's our RGB header? Do we have one up here? Looks like there's one over by that fan header. We can use that. And I just need to know which one is the positive. I can't tell on that one. We have to look at the manual and see if that's even an RGB header. So let's see if that is a addressable RGB header. Because there's one down at the bottom, but I'd rather use the one up near the fan. Number 10. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see what we gotta make sure it's plugged in the right direction though. So let's see if we can find out what the pin, which one is the 5 or 12 volt pin. All right, so pin number 1 is 12 volts. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right one. So we're looking at the LED for the CPU. There we go. So pin 1 looks like it's on the left-hand side, I believe. We'll look and see if we can find pin 1.
Someone is at the front door.
And it looks like yep, pin 1 is going to be on the left. If not, it won't mess anything up. We'll just have to flip it around. I think I got it in there right. We'll figure out how we're going to run that one here in a little bit. Once we get the GPU in place. GPU out. We'll figure out which cables we need. Where is that? Put it off to, there it is, right there. Alright, you want to take a screwdriver and, oh, no, this doesn't have a removable. Some cases will have a removable GPU plate that you take off, then you put it on the PSU, then you slide the PSU in. This one where you slide the PSU in and bolt and screw it in that way. Alright, so we need the 4 screws from the case that go for the power supply, which are these 4. Get this seal cut. Jesus, this is a thick one. Usually the tape they use aren't this in this thick. There we go. All right, it's a manual. Put it with the other manuals. Here's our stack of cables. Our silica gel. It's like a treat afterwards. No, no. They gave us 4 more power supply screws and some cable management ties. There's a jumper. You can use this to turn the power supply on when you want to not put power to the motherboard, but you want to power everything else. Like if you want to check some LEDs or things like that, you can plug that in. I use this on my system when I want to power the water pump, but I don't want to power the computer. Like if I don't have the water block on or something like that, then I can power the pump without putting power to the motherboard.
Okay.
Alright, so here is our actual PSU. This one didn't come with a bag for the cables, but that's alright. Some of them will come with a little pouch to put all your extra cables in. So there's our PSU. It's going to go in with the fan facing down.
Okay.
Because in the case there's slots here for airflow, along with a filter to help keep dust and stuff out. So you'd want to put the fan in facing with the fan facing down. If your case did not have any vents for airflow at all in the bottom, then you'd want to put the fan face up instead of face down, because you're not going to pull air from anywhere if it's face down. So, but in this case, it's got one on the bottom, so we will put it down. So we're going to take our PSU and we're going to find our cables that we need to use. We don't need to use all of them, so we're not going to plug in all of them. So there's a SATA, which we'll need one of these that has 2, 3 connectors. Sometimes they'll give you different variations of it. Here's the one for the CPU. We'll need that.
Okay.
Here's one for the GPU. We'll need that. Here's another one for the GPU. We don't need that. Here's another one for it. We don't need that. Here's another one for GPU. We don't need that. If you were building a system that had, and here's another one for CPU. These look like they're the same. Don't think they're different lengths. So we only need one, but some motherboards will use an extra EPS connector for additional power to the CPU for like overclocking and things like that. Here's another SATA. I'm looking for a SATA one that only has 2 connectors because I don't need. There's Molex, which is an old style. And here's the main CPU motherboard for 24-pin cable. It's Molex. We don't need that. But we have 3 SATAs, and it looks like they're all three connectors on each one. I think I had one in my other power supply that only had 2 on it, which if I had one I'd use it, because I'm only going to use one connector because I'm only connecting one hard drive that needs a SATA cable. So the other 2 are just there being useless. So we have the motherboard, CPU, GPU, and SATA cables. That should be all the cables we need. So we have all these extra cables that we don't need. So let's switch so we can see everything here. Alright. So we don't need all these. We'll put them back in the box. Let's go ahead and put that other hard drive in. So we, we might want to put the, to actually plug it in first, and then we'll slot it into place. So we'll wait. We're going to need one SATA cable too. So those came with the motherboard. Hey Space, how's it going? Yeah, the people on Twitch are probably wondering what's going on, because usually I'm programming and it's not building PCs. So we're going to need one of these SATA connectors. Probably use this angled one here, put the drive in the top, but we'll see. We may need to use the straight one, just depends. But we have them both. Alright, don't need that. Put that over to the side. That hard drive will go in. Open it. Well, we'll leave it for now. Alright, so let's get the power supply cables plugged in. So we got our beefy motherboard cable. Which we'll plug in here and here. And here's our SATA CPU. So our SATA goes down here in the bottom, so we'll plug that one up. Got your screwdriver ready?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll be screwing it into the case here in a minute. There's our SATA for our hard drive. Then we have CPU, and then we'll do VGA. CPU, plug into CPU 1, and then our VGA, plug into VGA 1, and that should be all the power cables we need. You can do these after you put the power supply in, but sometimes it's difficult to reach in and get them plugged in. Sometimes it's easier to plug them in with it out of the case and then put them in the case. And then some cases are easier than others to reach all this stuff, so sometimes it's better to put them all in now. This drive cage is gonna be making so it's a little harder to plug stuff in. Alright, so go ahead. Where's your screws?
Right here.
Where's your screws there? Over here.
Oh.
So the power supply here. Look. So there's your bottom screw there. So there, there, oh, there, here,
Okay.
and then here and there.
Okay.
May have to lift up on it a little bit to get everything to line up. But once you put this one here in, and what we'll do is, so go ahead and get that one, this bottom one here, started.
That one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that one. Need me to lift up on it a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Put it back down.
Too much?
I think that's good. I can't find the hole.
Alright, let me get it started for you. And I'll get this bottom one too to get it started for you. Then you can put in the two top and then tighten the rest of them down. Okay.
Okay.
Alright. There and there
Uh-huh.
and there. Got it?
Alright.
There's your two. Don't lose 'em.
Hey, Smokey.
Smokey, are you trying to help? What are you gonna do? I was gonna say, you gonna knock something off for us?
Yep.
Empty bags. Got him yet?
Can you pick this one?
All right. Maybe it needs to be lifted up just a little. That's why we don't tighten all of them down when we do the first one. So we have a little bit of wiggle room. Let's get it lined up here. All right, tighten down the rest of them.
Okay.
Done?
Yep.
Double check. They just need to be snug. Alright. Now we will route the cables to approximately where they need to go. So like the let me unplug that and route it a little differently. So, motherboard cable is going to need to go. Let's see, which one is that? That is the CPU. That actually is going to go up here. So that's awful short. Cable manage that later. This one's going to go up here. Hold on, let me switch this wiring around a little bit. So this connector is on the other side. That can go up there. This one. Feed that one up here. Right. This one's the pain because it's really thick. So we'll just run it through there. This one is going to be the graphics card. And depending on where, I might run that one. I'm not sure if I want to run that one out of this bottom or out the side. I think I might want to run it out the bottom, so I want to change. I want to change this a little bit. This one. VGA is probably going to go up here. Plug this real quick so I can slide this wire by. These cables is just in the way. Come on. There we go. Come on. plug. Now I can slide it by. Oops. There we go. Plug that one back in. So that cable is routed through about where it needs to go. One is this one's going to stay back here because it's going to go into this. It's going to go into here. So that one's pretty much going to be pretty much where it is. We need a SATA data cable. Those plug in down here. So that's going to come through here and down. So I'm not sure exactly which one we're going to use. Why don't we go ahead and install the 5-inch hard drive while we're here. Well, which we may. Hold on. Let's do this. All right. So the problem is installing a hard drive down here. It's hard to get a screwdriver in here to screw it on both sides.
Yeah.
So we actually are going to have to remove the hard drive cage from the bottom.
Okay.
Put the hard drive in, screw it down, and then put it back in.
Okay.
Alright, so let's lay it down. I'll take the hard drive. We'll take the hard drive cage out. Now leave that other view because we want to see the bottom. So take your screwdriver and see these 4 screws right here.
Yeah. Unscrew them.
Unscrew them. Take those out. I'll hold the cage so it doesn't move on you.
Okay.
Here, let me get them started.
Yeah.
You gotta counterclockwise to loosen. There you go. Finish unscrewing. Counterclockwise. Or lefty loosey. Left. So you screw to the left. Make sure you keep the head in there. Keep it straight. So you don't strip the screw out. There you go. There's one. Go ahead, keep going. It's not losing enough. I was just going to hold it so it doesn't fall. Alright. Push it in there. There you go. And the bottom one. That's all 4. And we take the cage out and we put the hard drive in. Now remember these screws go over there on the bottom. And where's that pack of screws? Is it these? The 632s? Yep. Alright, so those are the ones that we use for the hard drives. So let's get the hard drive. Wherever I put it, over here. Let me open that pack up. Trash. All right. This drive will slide in like so. And we'll put screws in the side. I'll get them started and you can finish tightening them down.
Alright.
So there's one. Oh, I'll just take one off. So we got 3 on one side, 3 on the other. So 6 screws all together. Most, you really only need 4, but so there's 1, 2, 3. We flip it over, and hopefully I put it in the right direction, or I'll be having to undo it, flip it around, screw it back in. I don't think the orientation really matters. Alright, tighten all of them down. Okay. Hold the thing where you do it.
Okay.
Alright, now we gotta put it back in the case. So basically it goes in that way. Connectors are facing here. We have our SATA connector, it goes there, and our data one will go there when we plug that in. So we want to grab these 4 screws back again. So you can put 3 hard drives in this cage. 3 5.25 inch mechanical drives you can put in here, and we got a spot here for 2 SSDs on the back if you were going that route. And if you want, I'll get one started for you. I think that's where it was to begin with. Alright, you want to tighten them up and make sure that it's in the right spot there. You need to put some push on it a little bit, make sure the screwdriver stays in there. I want you stripping the screws out. Just put them, make them snug. Force behind it. Alright. Let me snug them down, make sure they're all good and snug. That one's good, that one's good, that one's good. And that one's good. They're all good. All right. Now our SATA cable here. We can actually shove this thing back in there. Actually, and sometimes you can use the actual bottom of the bay if you need extra room to shove the cables in. We're only going to need one of these.
Okay.
Because we only have one hard drive we're putting in.
Okay.
So we're going to shove everything back up into there, except for the one plug that we need to actually use, which has an L shape on it. So it only goes in, connects from one direction. Alright, and then we get our, I know I got some of them out. Oh, yeah, they're over here. So in this case, we'll use the 90. And these have a retaining clip, and they clip into place. And we will, let's see where that, yep. So that's going to plug in on the motherboard. Flip the cable over. And that's clicked into place. We will get rid of some of our slack. Oh, hold on. This one's snagged on our other cable. There we go. Ah. So now we're ready to layer down again. Alright, so now we're ready to plug in some of these, except for this one. That's for our GPU, and then we got to figure out how we're going to run this, because that has to go down to the bottom, and it's either going to run up here or we'll run it under the back part of the graphics card, so it's not as visible. All right, so this guy has a clip here, and there's a clip on this side, so it goes in one direction.
Okay.
This one's usually a pain to get because this has a split connection that actually has to go together and plug in up here. Still has the clips, but you have to put the two together and get them to slide in with each other. So let's see if we can get the motherboard cable. It's got to flip around. Let me see if I can get it twisted better from. Then I gotta bend the U in it. That cable, it's the easiest one to plug in, but it's always a pain just because of how thick the cable is. Yes, a Ryzen CPU. It is a Ryzen 9 3900X. So 12 core, 24 thread CPU. It's actually going to be a workstation. It's actually going to be my new workstation at work. So I need more processing power than GPU power since it's going to be for that. But I did get a GTX 1660 Super for the graphics card, because I'm actually going to be running triple monitors at the office, and I'll be able to do a little bit of gaming on it as well. It'll I mean, it's not going to run everything at ultra high frame rates, but for a workstation, it will be powerful enough to play some stuff if I want to. So yeah, so I went with a more powerful CPU because I'll need more power for compiling programs and more CPU intensive work. I need a little bit more light to see where that plug is. But yeah, my gaming system is an Intel build, and I probably have built more. Well, I don't know. It might be fairly even on the number of builds I've done with AMD and Intel. I don't really have a preference over one or the other. It's more what's the best processor at the time for the job that's going to be done. So, all right, that's all plugged in. VGA cable's there. Let's pull our cable back a little bit. Route him around that connector here soon. Alright, so the next item up for bid on the Price is Right is our GPU. So I need to take out a couple slots out of the back. Do you want to go over here and unscrew these two screws, let's see. All right, loosen up this screw and this screw. This slides up, and then you want to take out this slot and this slot. You want to take these screws out and this screw out, and we're going to take these slots out for the GPU so that I can, and I'll go ahead and get the graphics card out of the box.
So don't take the two top screws out? You
don't have to take them all the way out, because as you see, this piece will slide up, and it's basically a retainer for the slots.
Okay. I
used to rock an i7 5820K. I switched back and forth constantly. Yeah, the 5820K, that's not a bad processor. But with the AMD and Intel, I wouldn't call it a fight, but the competition between the two, they go back and forth on which one's the better one at the time, and it just depends on what you're building and what it's going to be used for, on which one to use. I'd love to be able to use a thread ripper, but there's no way that at work I did not have the budget to buy a $1,000 processor to get a thread ripper. But this build is more CPU heavy than GPU, just for that, because of that purpose. Let's see what's in this box. Here, I'm gonna move you over, David, so you're out of the way of the tripod there.
Okay.
I know it's gonna make it harder to see. Maybe we can move. There we go. Now they can still see while I unbox this. And we are going to need those screws that are coming out. So this is probably just manual and stuff, because there's really not any hardware other than the graphics card.
Okay,
Quick start.
Both of the screws and these two screws.
Okay. Oh, look, the CD is not even in the sleeve. we're not even going to use it anyway because we'll just get updated drivers and stuff from the website instead of from disk. Actually, this PC doesn't even have a CD-ROM drive to even put this in. I have an external CD-ROM drive, but most of the time, unless you need them right then and there, the drivers that come with it are usually out of date anyway, so you're better off just to download them from the website. And if you know what parts you're getting, like I knew I was getting a Gigabyte, the 1660 Super, I could have gone to the website ahead of time before I even did it and put all the updated drivers for the motherboard and all that other stuff onto a USB drive so that I had the current drivers when I go and install Windows and all that stuff. They're already there, ready to go. I don't have to go hunt for them. But I'll probably just use the GeForce and just have it update my drivers. So, and Windows will install a base one before I get that installed. So, yeah, my wife won't let me buy a Threadripper. Otherwise, I totally would have. Yeah, if I spent $1,000 just on a CPU, you know, not to mention the motherboard to put a Threadripper in is probably going to be at least what, $500–600 for the motherboard, then memory and all that stuff. I mean, you're looking at probably at least $3,000 for to put together a PC. Yeah, I wouldn't. That wouldn't get past mine either. Oh, did you take the slots out? We need to remove those slots. It's this one and this one. Yeah, those two. So this, hold on. See, this slides up. See, and then hold on. Look. Then these just come right out.
Oh.
Okay. So. Yeah, if I bought a you know, what is it, the Threadrippers, they're at least $1,000 to $1,500 for them. Yeah, I would probably end up being single again if I tried to do that. So let's see if we're gonna go, because I want to figure out how I'm gonna route this wire. So that's gonna sit in there like that. I may go underneath it in the front. Yeah, I'm gonna go in the front of the of there. So let's route this way. You know what? I could probably go underneath and go behind this cable, and this can help hold it into place. This cable out the way a little bit. And make sure our clip is down for our PCIe slot and press into place. Alright, and our GPU is now installed. Now we have to plug in the GPU power cable and then just pull this slack of it back. We're almost ready to push the power button on this thing. Oh, got a glaring my headlamp. Alright, so we need to pull some slack off this guy. see. All right, so we'll cable manage after we power on and check everything out. Oh, I need to put the screws back in to here. All right, so that slack is taken off from that cable. Now usually I will save these extra slots that I remove because you never know when you might need to put them back or change them, or sometimes people will put extra cards in, you know, like capture cards, things like that, and then when they take it out, then they have just an empty hole. Sometimes it's nice to have an extra slot cover to put in there if you misplace it or whatnot. Alright, then this slides back down and you tighten it up. Ended up using the software to turn off the LEDs and the cooler and just unplug that cable. It's so hard to make it look nice. Yeah, sometimes that is difficult to do. I lose all my PCI covers eventually. They just seem to walk out in the middle of the night. Exactly, they do. That's why I try to save them so that if I need one, then I have one. And there's sometimes when I'll do builds where I'll have to modify one, and it's nice to have like an original one to put back if I change or something like that, because I know on my gaming system I used one because I ran a HDMI cable from my graphics card back into one of the other slots with a hole in it, and because I have the stat screen mounted to the riser, which uses an HDMI cable. So that was the cleanest way to plug it into the graphics card, then route it back inside and then down to the stat screen, which the stat screen is on the side. So the cable comes out of the graphics card and goes right back into a slot in and then down and plugs into the stat screen. So I had to cut holes in the slot covers. So it actually it's nice to have some extra just in case I need to change that or I move it or who knows. So all right, I think we are ready to test and see if we can get it to post. I need to get the power cable and a monitor. So let's put that over here. I don't know if I have a power cable long enough. I think I do. And I think I've got an outlet over here where the computer's sitting. So let me grab, excuse me, cat, grab my monitor. Let's see if I can get it in here so I can still see. Oh, I need Well, I don't need a keyboard right now. I just want to make sure. I just want to get it to the post screen. It doesn't have to have a keyboard attached to post. It doesn't need. Actually, you don't even need a hard drive or to get it to post. You just need a CPU, motherboard, and some RAM in it to get it to post. I mean, it'll fuss at you that you don't have, you know, an operating system or anything like that, but you know what? I should probably get my keyboard, bring it in. So let's see how we can angle this so everything's visible. And I'll go get rid of my keyboard and everything. Let's see, do I have an extra keyboard lying around? Actually, I do. Alright, I got an old Dell keyboard. I'll put a hook to it. You want to read me that comment?
Do you buy your Windows install USB, or do you have your own?
Read it one more time.
Do you buy your Windows install USB, or do you have your own?
So for this build, I went the other day. I went on Microsoft's website and downloaded the creation tool. So I just created a USB drive with Windows 10 on it. As far as like a activation code or whatnot, since I have at my work, I have a MSDN subscription. I'm going to use a key with my MSDN subscription. So I need a mouse. I could steal the one off of this. Yeah, I'm gonna steal the one off of this. Or should I just go wired? I got a wired mouse in the other room because it might not have drivers first off for a wireless mouse. Alright, good thing is I have a mouse that's wired and wireless, so I can just hold it for a sec.
Okay.
While I plug this guy in. So we will plug in the cable for the mouse and then so yes, my Logitech G900 that I use on my gaming system. I'll use here with this, and I think we're ready to. Let me grab the power cable for the computer. I know this isn't the power cable that came with it, but it's an extra long power cable I'm going to plug up over here on the wall. Because I'm using both of my outlets that's on my kitchen island. All right, we got power. All right, moment of truth. Power's on to the PSU. Let's see. Set Typically you do get some lights. Let's push the power button and see what happens. Alright, we got a wire that's touching a fan. Yep. I was like, what in the world is that noise? We'll have to... We will take care of that. And let's see, is my monitor on? Yes. Not getting a signal from the GPU yet. But everything is lit. Let me double check the monitor input is on DisplayPort, and I'm now getting a signal. Oh, no signal. Sometimes it will boot a couple of times with the AMD. So let's see what we get. There we go. And we just got the message about there being no boot device, which is exactly what we expect because there's no no operating system installed. So cool. So we got everything to boot. And you know what? I might as well plug in my USB drive and get Windows going, or at least get the operating system started. And then I can do some cable management while that's going to for the most part. So I might need to reboot into the BIOS in order to select the USB as the boot device. So if not, we'll just be seeing that all over the place. And there actually isn't a restart button on there. So we gotta turn it off, turn it on, and it's either gonna be delete or F10 or F2 depending on the motherboard. So BIOS has been reset. Please reconfigure your BIOS settings items if needed. Okay, there we go. So let's see. Let's put it on the BIOS screen here. Hold on. Readjust this camera. I don't know how well anybody will be able to see that, but we can go there. So we got our, now it looks like we got our CPU, our CPU fan plugged into the CPU optional header instead of the CPU fan, so we'll move that. Looks like our boot sequence looks right. We want to boot from our flash drive that we have plugged into the top. Then we have our Samsung Evo, which is going to be our primary boot drive that we're going to install everything on. We've got, we need to set our as an XMP profile. I'm not sure if in AMD if it's called an XMP profile or whatnot for our memory. For that to go from 2133 megahertz up to the 3600 megahertz, but it's seeing our Ryzen 9 3900X. Looks like the temperature's good. So yeah, it looks like we just have some tweaking to do in our BIOS. It's something called that starts with DOCP. Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is even with AMD versus Intel, if you call it XMP, people know what you mean. Actually, it's saying XMP right here, and then it's disabled. There we go, profile 1. So it looks like actually they refer to it as XMP now in here. I don't know if that term, if they changed the term or whatnot, but sometimes those terms are interchangeable. As far as that goes, we got all these extra screws. We've got some cleaning up to do after this, but looks like we don't have too many lights on in our system, which this is just going to sit underneath my desk, so I'm not going to see it anyway. I may turn those lights off, but I may leave them on just as a visual indicator that the system is actually running. So let me save and exit here real quick, and then I'll shut it off and plug in that the CPU fan to the actual CPU header instead of the optional one. I think those two connectors are right side by side, so I just probably plugged it into the wrong one. So F10, save and exit. Am I sure? Yes. So we'll turn it off. And let's move that connector real quick. So they might have just called it XMP to make it easier to configure. My ASUS board calls it DOCP. Yeah, I don't know if they're trying to standardize that, or if MSI can call it one thing or whatever. But you know, we know that it both means the same thing. So let me swap this this fan header real quick. Oh, now that's interesting.
Well,
Oh, this is interesting. Hold on, let me see if I can get this on camera, because the way that it's labeled. Hold on, let me make some adjustments here. See if I can get this camera to be an overhead shot again. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get it too well. You know what? I might. Let me take it off. Let me get some extra light. Because it looks like, based on what I see here, I've got it plugged into the correct one, but it's showing up as the optional connector in the BIOS. So let me see if we can get down in there. So I don't know if that's visible or too bright. So there's two headers, one on the right and one on the left. Oh yeah, so they've labeled them out to the side, and when I saw the CPU opt next to that first gray one, I figured that was the CPU optional one. But it looks like they've labeled it to the side, but the CPU opt is the one on the right and the CPU fan is the one on the left. Because it doesn't look like there's enough room to label it in front of each one on the board. That's probably what they did. So the gray one is the fan header, which that sucks because that makes the connector a little in the way of the memory slots there. But anyway, we'll move it over one so that it's in, at least it's in the right, in the CPU fan slot. So let's switch that. Real quick. set it back upright and we'll see if we can't get Windows installed. I might go ahead and just end the stream since we're pretty much not doing any more building except for some cable management and a Windows install. That's pretty much all we're gonna be doing. Switch our David, can you switch our view back to
Yep.
There we go. So we're plugged up. We got our Windows 10 boot drive, and we'll stick it in there. Let's turn the power back on. And we'll flip the switch. We'll double check in our BIOS that we've got it plugged into the right one. Actually, we'll put this one on the monitor again like we did earlier. Oh, shoot, I forgot to do the F6. That's all out of focus. Oh, there we go. Now it focused. Alright, I'm going to reboot back into the BIOS and we'll check the we'll check and make sure we got the fan plugged into the switch there. Alright, so now we got CPU fan, system fan 1, and system fan 2. Our memory frequency is now sitting at 3605.61 megahertz, which means our XMP profile has been applied, and everything looks good, except we're blurry.
Yeah.
There we go. The autofocus there. There's a glare on there too. I think it's coming from the window. So, all right. So we got our XMP profile applied. We're at 36. We got our CPU fan now plugged into the correct one, and looks like we still have everything looks right. I mean, pretty much the defaults are good to go for the most part. So now I'm just gonna install Windows. We got shows our one SATA device plugged in. So now we'll boot to Windows and we'll start installing Windows. Yeah, I wish we didn't have that glare on the screen, but I think it's from the sun coming in. All right. F10. Am I sure? Yes, I'm always sure. Actually, I'm not always sure, but yeah. Let's see if the glare is coming from the. You see the glare?
Kinda. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, right there.
huh?
Yeah, I see the glare right there where you're.
Does that get rid of it? Me moving? I'm just trying to see if it's coming from the back door.
Yeah.
It is? Figured that. Alright. So now we're going to be installing Windows. Actually, we'll go through a quick Windows install. So yeah, English, US. Install now. We're going to be installing this on our Samsung. I don't have a product key. We'll enter that later. 970 Evo. We're going to be installing Windows 10 Pro. Yes, I accept. So it's going to be this one, drive 1. That's our 500 gig M.2 drive, the Samsung 970, or is it 950? I can't remember. It's I can't even remember where the box went to look. The box is so small, it's hard to keep track of. Alright, so new, apply, yes. Sometimes I'll even disconnect all the other hard drives except for the drive that I want to install Windows on. That way there's no way I can screw up and accidentally install Windows on the wrong drive. I have done that before, especially when the drives are close in size. I've mistakenly installed it on the wrong one and had to go back and do it all over again. Yeah, too bad I don't have a capture card and I can just capture that window, because it's not, you can't even see what's on the screen. But it's installing the Windows files. It's doing pretty quick. So, but yeah, afterwards I'll do the cable management and stuff. And put the covers back on. 85, 87, 88%. Yep. Problem is, I wish I had a smaller monitor instead of this, using my 27-inch monitor from my gaming rig. But it's the only one I had handy that had DisplayPort. Windows needs to restart. We'll restart in 7. Alright, so it's restarting. It's already installed Windows, and then the next thing is just configuring Windows. So let's see. Yeah, I have like 5 drives usually, and I've had times where I really had to pay attention. Yeah, you do. I have a in my gaming rig, I have a 4 terabyte drive that I use to back up that I used to back up a cloud drive that I had. So I had a backup of it that's completely separate from the cloud drive itself. And I did, when I wiped it clean to reinstall Windows Fresh on it again, I did accidentally wipe out that drive, forgetting that wasn't my boot drive, to install Windows again, because I wiped out, I like to, when I reinstall Windows from scratch, I always like to wipe or delete all the partitions and start from scratch on it. And I did delete the partitions on the wrong drive. So, and it took a while to copy and back up the 2 terabytes that I had to back up. So yeah, so now when I go to do that, I will actually unplug the other drives, because I have a 1 terabyte SSD in my gaming rig to install games on. So I will unplug the data connector for the extra drives, so that there is no question that I'm wiping out and installing everything on the right one, because that is a pain when you mess up. Region, yep. And US. Skip. I don't have, you know what? I'll connect. I got Ethernet. I'll connect later. So let's see. Oh no, I did that with my USB one time, and I had all my source code. Luckily, I was able to restore the partition Yeah, problem is all my source code wouldn't fit on a USB. I think. I mean, we use they've changed the name of it. It used to be Visual Source Safe, then it changed to Team Foundation Server, and now it's Azure Development something or another that we use for code or source storage, which we use SQL as our backend to store a lot of source code. And I think last time I looked a few years ago, we have over 3 million lines of code in our repository. So yeah, so there's no way I could even fit the what I currently have on my drive. It's 128 gig, but I don't have a lot of code. I think I have 3 gig max. Yeah, the good thing is a lot of times the source doesn't take up a lot of space, but when you compile it and then you create an install for it and all that stuff and create the MSI and things like that, it can start getting you can start using up a lot of space, especially if you have quite a few projects or quite a few installs. So let's see, do I want to grab an Ethernet cable or just skip it for now? I'll just skip it for now. Continue with limited setup. Who's going to be using this PC? What name do you want to use? Doesn't matter because PC is going to join a domain later, so the current person I use is what doesn't matter. So I'll just put me for now. Next, create a super memorable password. Confirm it. Oh, security questions. God, I hate these. I probably would want to do this more offline. So I don't think I want to be broadcasting all my answers to my security questions on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch at all at the same time. So, but yeah, I'll see if I can't Monday when I go to take this to the office and start getting everything installed. I might stream all that too, on configuring everything and all the stuff I got to get installed. I got to get SQL installed. I got to get the development environment. There's email. There's just, I mean, that's almost a whole day just getting the system set up like you want it. Is going to take some time. So I'll probably do that Monday, and I might stream that as well. So. David, come here.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to basically end this stream, and anybody who's out there watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, I want to thank you for joining us on building our system. So I appreciate you joining us and watching. Thanks, and have a great day. So. And like I said, I'll probably stream Monday on getting all this stuff set up. It'll probably just be on Twitch there for you. So, all right, have a good day.